Taking a look at Tesla, Elon Musk's 24-hour trip to China pays off, at least for now. Tesla receiving in-principle approval to roll out its driver assistance service in the country. Now, the deal is seen as a potential catalyst for sales growth following Tesla's slump in China, which is Tesla's second largest market. The stock moving to the upside on the news of this today, rallying up just about 11%. For more, I want to bring in Leland Miller, the CEO of China Beige Book. Leland, it's great to have you here. And Nikiko was just laying out some key stats, I think, and just really highlighting Tesla's shrinking market share that we have been seeing now over the last several quarters within China. When you take a look at the news today and given your expertise within the region, is this a game changer for Tesla? What do you think reception is going to be like towards Tesla vehicles within China?
I think it's too early to call it a game changer. What Tesla certainly has to do is stay on the forefront of innovation. They have to be the most technologically advanced car option because they can't compete on price because of the dynamics of the Chinese market. You know, you've had over a decade of mass incubation of a very advanced, very impressive electric vehicle market in China. What you've gotten now is a situation where you've got so many cars and you've got a domestic car market that's mostly saturated that there is a price war going on. And the price war is going to drive exports to other countries. This is why a lot of governments, the United States, EU, are worried about overcapacity, et cetera. But it means that the prices are being driven down, down, down. Tesla needs to make a profit, unlike a lot of these Chinese firms. So it can't compete in an even field. It needs to stay on the top of the technology ladder. This allows it to stay on top for a little while longer.
Leland, was this trip more beneficial for Tesla or for Beijing?
Well, I think, you know, it was advantageous for Beijing in that if they didn't see an upside for China, then they wouldn't give Musk the approval that he's been getting. So Tesla just agreed to a mapping deal with Baidu on navigation. It agreed to get some regulatory approvals in terms of data security and in terms of some other things. So China obviously sees this as important. But again, it's what does Tesla bring that other Chinese car companies don't? As long as it's pushing the envelope for technologically, I think Tesla's in solid shape. But again, they can't compete on price. So there are enormous pressures on Tesla right now in China that weren't there a few years ago.
Leland, let's talk about what we're seeing here from Apple, because when you take a look at sliding demand, at least the recent numbers that we've gotten out, we'll get a better picture on it later this week, but the slump in demand that we're seeing of Apple's products within China. Talk to us a little bit more about the current sentiment right now towards Apple's products and whether or not we're seeing this secular move away from Apple products within China.
I think we are seeing a secular move. I mean, you have pressure from the supply side and you have pressure from the demand side. Demand side, the government doesn't want many of its employees using Apple. There's either formal bans or informal bans on using Apple devices within government. You have a movement away from foreign phones. You've got these great advanced options domestically at Huawei and others. So there's more of a nationalistic sentiment towards buying Chinese technology. So all these are pressures on the demand side. On the supply side, Apple's been getting enormous push to extricate itself as much as possible, or at least its reliance on Chinese supply chains, and not extricate itself completely. So you've got pressure on the supply side that's raising costs. You've got pressure on the demand side. This is a very difficult situation for Apple as well.
Right, and we know that China accounts for about 20% of Apple's overall sales. What happens if the competition that we're talking about with Apple coming out of China leads to Apple's China sales hitting zero?
Well, look, I mean, you could see something like that happening in a full-blown confrontation, but it doesn't have to hit zero to cause enormous pain to Apple. What you're seeing right now is the result of a lot of trends, but most of them go all the way up to the geopolitical. And as long as you have a situation where there's de-risking and technological decoupling between the U.S. and China, you're going to have a harder time for U.S. companies, U.S. tech companies operating in China, whether that's Tesla, whether it's Apple. So Apple has just a lot of pressure on it to be able to secure alternative supply chains, to be able to make its devices attractive again in China. I think that's going in one direction right now, unless they release some sort of brand new technology that wows everybody. So there's just a lot of secular trends pushing against Apple being able to resist, to push back against losing market share. together.
Right. All right, Leland, we got to leave it there, but thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it. That was Leland Miller, China Beige Books CEO.